Love
For
having
sure.
you on here.
Well, welcome everybody. Today we just have such a special hour planned. We have Gary Spellman, who has had 30 plus successful years working in the beauty industry. He's helped salons grow their business through the expansive skills and perspectiveness that he's really gained through roles as a salon coordinator, sales manager, a sales trainer, distributor, manufacturer. He's the goodwill ambassador for John Paul Mitchell Systems. He really talks a lot about identifying your company's purpose and vision. And we had the privilege of talking to Gary a little bit before we jumped on here to go live with you guys. And his message today is just phenomenal. And he talked about, what do we do after that thunderbolt that hit us called the corona? And he has put together something today really talking about, productive activity and leaning and living into your purpose. And for those of you that have heard Gary speak before, he is so passionate about aligning yourself with your purpose and making sure that you stay the course. And as he said earlier, stay in your lane. And it's really about purpose. So I am so honored to have somebody that I can call my friend on this call today. So Gary, welcome.
I love it. Here I am at Next Level Leadership, and I took my helicopter in today. I'm in the next office right next to Sean. You can hear it. It's like, here comes Gary. See, didn't that sound like a helicopter? Right? But I'm just grateful you guys all took the time to be part of this, because something that we're going to talk about today and something very close to my heart is your purpose. What do you stand for? What do you represent? And what do you want people to think of you when you step off the planet? Now for, 8 or 10 years, I've been going, I think, what am I on? Year number 7 with this, the schools and talking about purpose. And I don't change the message. The stories will change because I keep evolving and growing and going on different great adventures with JP or with Tina or with Sean, and Lisa Martin. We always have fun at dinner with Lisa Martin. So you get to weave these stories in, but if you guys remember what I speak about, it's still your purpose, because that purpose you have is so important to you. It's that thing that gets you out of bed. And we had a long talk last time I was talking with you salons, as a matter of fact. We talked about the difference between motivation and discipline. And, people think I'm motivated, I'm going to work today. No, you're disciplined because you got out of bed. Your discipline is what gets you up. Your motivation is when you're sitting around the table with your friends and your family and go, I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to do this tomorrow at work. But the discipline keeps you on the straight and narrow. You're not going to get 6-packs through motivation. You're going to get a 6-pack through discipline of not drinking that bottle of wine. Because everyone knows me. Look at Sean's going, yeah, Gary likes his wine. He likes his tequila. And you don't get 6 abs when you indulge in that. It's discipline. And that's what today is. And we were talking earlier, it's about productive activity. The thing I love and I dislike a lot is social media. Social media is a wonderful way of communicating. It's a wonderful way of getting a positive message out. It's a wonderful way of staying, up to speed on what's happening around you. But it's also a super duper negative place where people feed a lot of negativity. And everyone has a voice. Andy Warhol said everyone wants to be famous for 15 minutes, or they have it for 15 minutes. Well, Instagram prolongs that. There's certain things you see out there, and it's going to happen no matter what, because people have opinion. But when you look at the Instagram and what you're doing every day, you're like, oh my God, they're on a better vacation than me. What do you think that does to you? I love when I see people, like we were just out, I had a good friend come in from Houston, and they have 8 restaurants. Now, during Corona, all 8 shut down. Because of the length of shutdown, they closed down 3. But what we're talking about today is productive activity. So through the close down, they sat and they analyzed every aspect of their business, just like I know Tina, Sean, and Lisa, and the whole team did for your businesses. And you step back and you look at it and you go, I got 8 assistants in this salon, and I only got 6 stylists. There's something wrong. I'm overpaying someone to do something that someone else needs to be doing. And that's what I want you all to take away from today. Math doesn't lie. No matter what the situation in your world, if you apply math, it doesn't lie. So if I'm looking, like I was just talking with Tina, I have my young son works in the warehouse, and he's reboxing some stuff that got mislabeled and misboxed. So we gave him a system, and everyone out there knows what a system is. A system is designed to keep you moving forward and being productive so you ensure your success. Now, once you become really fluent at it and good at it, you might adjust the system. It's sort of like music. You learn how to play the guitar, you learn the basics of music, and then you bend it, and then you create something called heavy metal, rock and roll, jazz, rap, classical, but it all comes from the same system of understanding music, which is math. Math is the true universal language of the planet. So when I look at my son and I say, all right, you have 155 of these in a box, and it takes you an average of 2 minutes to do each one. How long does it take you? And then he figures it out. I can do this in 2.5 hours. That's math. There's no emotion there. So today is about you hearing this message and taking away from it that your mind is a garden. Whatever you put in that garden is going to grow. It's all in your brain. So if you put positive energy into it, and that's what I'm always talking that way because that's how I live. I met someone at one of the signature gatherings. They go, I follow you. I've seen you. Are you really that positive? I said, yeah. She goes, how are you doing today? And I say, outrageously well. And she goes, damn, you are that positive. Because every day you're above ground is a gift. And you go back to these things like Kung Fu Panda. Anyone who's ever seen Kung Fu Panda, you know that, I think it was a Pixar movie about Jack Black played a Kung Fu Panda. And at the end of the whole movie, he was looking for the secret ingredient that made life special. And there is none. You're the secret ingredient is the message. And his master and his mentor told him that they call it the present because today is a gift. The future might not happen and yesterday's gone. Today is where you live. So if you're wasting time without productive activity, where you're going into the rabbit hole of social media, seeing more negative impulse than you can handle, your brain will get negative. And that garden is not going to give you flowers. It's going to give you weeds. And that's your brain. So I always like to convince everyone, you got to run your own race because you can't compare, you can't compare your self-worth to someone else's net worth. I see this all the time. You're like, oh my God, I've had my salon for 3 years and I'm not doing $1 million, where Tina has a salon and she's doing $1 million and you get all worked up. That's not how this works. When you compare yourself to yourself, you'll have growth. Well, you compare it to money, because remember, money is not the answer to happiness. I know this for a fact. I know John Paul was as happy when he was broke as he is as a billionaire. I was happy when I was broke, sometimes more happy because I had less stuff to worry about. But don't get me wrong, it's pretty nice sitting there cutting a nice check at a fancy table looking out at a gorgeous backyard. I mean, money. My dad used to say, because he used to drink a little, he'd say, Dad, he goes, you know something, son, the only thing money can't buy is poverty. I'm like, all right, that makes sense, right? Think about that. The only thing money can't buy is poverty. And that was him when you get a little twisted on. But when you start measuring your self-worth through your own goals and your purpose. So as you all know, my purpose to be the man I want my son to be. So Sean and I and Tina were just talking way back when. I go through all my notes because I keep these kind of, excuse me while I turn it for my prop. I have about 1,000 of these. And these are what I call notes from the plane. That's what I call them, because I'll see something as cool as two little old people who've been married for 75 years still holding hands. And then, they'll ask him something, the man will say, just nod a lot. And he says, see my hearing aid? If I turn it down and smile, she thinks I'm happy as a clam, And these are just little things that, because if you've been married, say 60 years, I want to know how you did that, because that's a cool thing. That's when people get married, they say, I do, so they better. And that's forever. So when you get your mind and your purpose around who you're going to be, mine is to be the man I want my son to grow up to be. So I approach everything in my life that way. So when you see negative, we were talking about this earlier, the brain has 67 thoughts running through it a day. Think about that, 60,000 thoughts. And 95% of those are still the bad thoughts you carried over from yesterday. Do you know how tired you're going to be of carrying yesterday's news with you everywhere you go? That's like if you carried every one of your phones up until now. Think about that. I had a flip phone, I had a slide phone, I had a Nokia, I had a Samsung, I had the first Apple phone, and then they got bigger, smaller. I would have my office full of phones, but only one of them is where you need to be, right? Everything else was yesterday. And that's why I love when everyone starts getting, back in the day, and my sister sometimes would get a little grumpy with me because I cut people off. I don't mean to be abrupt, but sometimes it comes off that way, but I'm direct and I'm honest. That's no time for rubbing shoulders going, I'd love to sit and talk about when I was a sophomore in high school with you. I'm like, gone. I haven't got time for that. And that's when I go home to see my mom. They'll be like, there's always a couple of friends. They're like, oh, come on, you go to the local watering hole. And they're still driving the 78 Trans Am they bought when they got out of high school and worked at the Burger King, but it was a star quarterback. you remember that game? I'm like, I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. I tell you what, though, you got to get past where you are. And we just said this, but your I can is more powerful than your IQ. And what that means is if you believe in your heart that you can do something, and you believe it, like my purpose, being the best man I want to be the man my son grows up to be. So I'm always thinking about, like today, the lesson in the car today was, there was a knucklehead in front of me. And I'll say it honestly in front of you because I can't be that way in the car. 15 miles an hour. We're going down the street. He stops at the stop sign, looking everywhere. Now I have an option. I can go, what the F is good? Jeez, Lou, we just get all grandma. My Nana would put her hands up and we're going to be late for church today. Jeez, gotta get this car. Instead, I said, Dakota, what good can we come out of this? And this is the power of opposite thinking. The opposite thinker goes, you want to just rail on this person for not driving the way you're driving. That's all that is. So Dakota, what's our opposite thinking? He goes, he's driving slow enough so everyone's safe, Dad. Now versus me going, you jackass, move out of my way. We went to opposite thinking. He's being extra safe, Dad. See, now the brain is in a positive space. And everyone wants to underestimate what that means. But when the brain's in a positive space, it means your heart's working. A lot of people believe, including myself, that the heart controls the brain. It really does. Everything starts here and then gets filtered and descends out. So here's where all your emotion, your love, and your strength comes from. Funnels up, and then up here somewhere, if you haven't gone to see Pink Floyd too much and you still have all your brain cells, then it's in categories. Right? Look at Tina's laughing at me. I remember that concert.
I love Pink Floyd.
Yeah, Delicate Sound of Thunder.
Yeah, know who Pink Floyd is. Give it away.
So if you think that way, that your I can is more powerful than your IQ, you won't slight yourself. Because I was one of the kids in school that did horrible. My mom would stay up late with me at night, and it was my fault. I was like, I'm not doing it. You crazy? What do I care what George Washington did? He's gone. But I was not a good student, but a good athlete. So in order for me to stay on the baseball team, I made the varsity baseball team when I was a freshman. And then I flunked right off the team. I was like, oh. And that was a good lesson for me, because you have to do what you're supposed to. Like we said, stay in your lane. My lane at school was to be a good student. It wasn't to be a great athlete. It was to be a good student. And if I was a great athlete, and by the way, I got to play again, so be it. And that's what I want everyone to take away from today, because we talked about it earlier. So I got to move that out of my way. We talked about our discipline. And everyone listening right now, whether you're a salon owner, the discipline comes with sticking to your systems. Think about how many times, and the only time, and just you can raise your hand or do whatever you do to make this go click. But when you have a problem in your staffing at the salon, I'm going to say at least 99.9% of the time it's because you abandoned your system and gave in to someone who was complaining. Because as someone who's been in this industry for 32 some odd, 35 years now, every time there was a salon upheaval, it's because the owner of the salon lacked 5 things: planning, debt burden will kill a business, shared learning. When you own a business, if you're not doing shared learning, you're going to fail. Sharing your vision, and then planning skills of the owner. So those 5 things will cause success or failure in a business. Do I have to repeat them again? Because I jump around a little.
Yeah.
Sean's like, can you do that again? So it's the planning skills of the owner, the debt burden of your business, if you have shared learning, shared vision, and the leadership skills of the owner. That's it. That's the only 5 things that make a business grow. And that's just from us being in the field and talking to people, thousands of salon owners, thousands of business owners. I was like, we're laughing about this, but a good friend of mine owns the Alfa Romeo dealerships here. And that's the same problem he has as a salon with 1 employee. That's the same thing. A business is a business. You have to take in more money than you send out. It's not hard, but we'll make you buy books yay big and write papers. Boys and girls, I just saved you a lot of useless reading. Don't spend more than you make. Done. There it is. Here's my book, one page long. That's it.
I love it, Gary. Gary, I love the fact that you're talking about motivation versus discipline. You're speaking our language for sure. And I love the fact that you're talking about sticking to your systems, because Sean and I, we have a 6-month course called Next Level Salon Leadership, and it's to help salon owners to either start, maintain, or scale their business. And so we spent a whole month, but honestly, some of our salon owners that we're coaching need to spend a good year on this and then some. So we've had some of them go through the course over and over each year because they're building on what they, their foundation. So the whole month is fix your foundation. And I love what you're talking about. If you can expand a little bit more on this too, because I have a lot of people on here that are starting their business as well as people that want to scale their business that are part of this course that we're doing right now, this free webinar course that you're getting. And so talk to them about that. What would be the very first step that you would recommend to a salon owner to really get this whole puppy started? Because I think one of the biggest challenges I've seen, even because Sean and I do coach people that booth rental, a lot of times they don't even set up a corporation for themselves. And so then COVID hits, and now all of a sudden they're not an employee of their business, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't file unemployment. And so that took a little bit longer for those people. So kind of talk a little bit about, how important is it to figure out how to run a business versus being a hairstylist to really set up a solid foundation. I know you're great.
That is my favorite thing to talk about, because, as an outside looking in, I see this every day, and I get asked questions all the time about this. And you have to do your homework. You have to take ownership of your dream, your vision, your passion. This is what you want to be as a salon owner. Next thing you do is research. If you're going to have a 3-person salon, what's your rent? What's the cost? What's your break-even point? Now let's say you have to make $1,000 a week. That's your break-even point. After 1,000, you can start spending. That covers your nut, whether it's your rent, your employee, your taxes, whatever that 1,000 covers. And I'm just using 1,000 because it's easy math. Then you want to set up, how do I get my product to market the most effective way? I'm going to just pretend when I had my salon, I'm a brilliant hairdresser. I've got a line around the corner. Now, this is a true story, and I hope that person, my partner's not listening, but they had a strong box, and cash went in the strong box. And so when I first came in, I said, all right, this is the beginning when Sebastian just launched the SST computer software with John Maples and Steve Jobs. This is how old I am. I actually got to meet Steve Jobs because he helped write the thing with John Maples. And then it's bizarre, right? And so I was privy enough to be in that little group, and I said, we need a computer. So now what that tells you is, what's your system? Because if you're a brilliant hairdresser, how do you cut the hair? So you have to start with the minutia, and you go, all right, every client, when they walk through the door, this is step 1, how we greet them. That's my system of how we greet. Every salon should have these steps. Step 2, what do I do from there? We used to call it obligato. Obligato means follow the hand. So when you came into our salon, we'd say, welcome to, I won't say the name, welcome to Gary's Hair Salon. It was so good to see you, Sean. And oh, by the way, you're going to be sitting with Tina today. She's getting the station ready for you. Follow me. And you move your hand like this. Have you ever noticed when you do this, people go wherever this goes? Because I was a doorman. I'm like, all right this way. It's like you go to Disneyland, right this way. And you go, oh, okay, gotta go this way. And then next thing you know, you're in the parking lot going, hey, how'd they get me out so quick, right? Mm-hmm. So when you go, all right, here's how we're going to take you back. Then there's a system on the cape in the changing room. And then someone's going to walk them back to the styling area where you're not going to do anything. Next step is your consultation. This is where you get your commitment and agreement from each other, that you understand each other through open-ended questions about the desires they want with their hair. So if I'm sitting there and I'm talking to Sean, and I know Sean, he's a high-powered executive at a fast-paced, top Paul Mitchell school, but he loves to have that stripe in his hair. He still wants to have his edge of being cool, Sean, but he has to be respected in the business community. So we're going to talk about that. Then he's going to say, all right, you know who I work for. They're easy to work for. They take good care of me, but I still want the kids to respect me, and I want to look the part. Perfect. Now, what are you doing on weekends? Well, I just fell in love. I got this new sweetie pie. We're going to go camping. All right, so you don't want long hair because you get out and you start sweating. You're going to get bug. Look, notice I cut my hair finally, right? It was like out, like I look like Carrot Top. It was so big. So we're going to listen to everything Sean has to do in his life and what he wants as his end goal for his hair and how it makes him feel, not how it looks. Now, remember, you're going to, as a hairdresser and anyone, art's subjective. So when you look at a painting, you're going to see one thing and someone else is going to see another. But how does it make you feel? So as a hairdresser and as a person who had a hair salon, we would train our staff to ask, how does it make you feel? Your very best haircut. What was your best haircut? Why was it your best haircut? How did it make you feel? Now you have this list of, this is what I can do and accomplish here. So if I listen to Sean, we go through our dialogue and we're going through a commitment and agreement phase. And now you have to repeat it back. All right, Sean, if I understand you, if I'm able to deliver you a haircut you can rock 3 ways. One is that fun, edgy side when you get your skateboard out and you're ripping the part. The other one's when you're sitting in a board meeting with Tina and Brian. And the other one is when you're out on the town and you don't want to be so buttoned up. If I can knock that out, one haircut, a couple of products, that way you have all three, is that cool? Then you do this. See how I nodded? He nodded. I was doing that on purpose. If you nod, people nod. Do this. Anyone listening, when you get up, just go like this. Stand in the middle of the bank and look up. Everyone's going to go, what are you looking at? Right? That's what they do. It's as simple as that. Nobody likes looking at the elevator numbers, but one person's too afraid to make eye contact. What do? They look down or at the numbers.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to get lost. The elevator goes up and down. It's not going to go 7 to 9. Oh, they missed my floor. No, but where do they go for safety? Don't look at me. That's number 7. Don't look at me. Floor 8. Ooh, my floor. Bing, get out of my way.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So by focusing on what made him happy and made him feel good. Did you hear that squeak?
Yeah.
If I was at home, I'd open that door and go right in my son's head. He just, idiot. The dog's at my door. Oh, now I know why lions eat their young.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, that's the whole thing. So now we know how they feel. So now you proceed. All right, first step of this, I'm going to take you to the shampoo area. I am going to give you, and I always love it when people talk positive, I'm going to give you the best shampoo you've ever had. You say that to every customer. But you know what happens in the reality of the salon world? And all you stylists listening to me, you know I'm telling you the truth. You get too cool for school. You stop doing what made you great to get there, to get your book, and then you take your customer for granted. How do I know? Because I don't cut hair. And the person who still does my hair still has this conversation with me. He was one of our top salons, and then he and his brother formed, well, his brother already had it, but now it's the top of Veda Salon, number 5 in the country. This guy and I have been friends for almost 30 years, and he still has a consultation with me, still asks me what I liked about my haircut. Then he asked me what I want from my haircut. How do you want to feel, Gary?
Wow.
There's too many of us out there who take our customers for granted once they start coming, because you fall into that trap of familiarity. You're like, oh, all right, I know Sean really well. We can talk about his new car. That's a fast car. I like that car a lot. I can ask about what concert you saw. Now I'm not even talking. Look at, I'm reaching like he can see me touching his hair. I'm like, I'm like swirling around. I'm like, now I'm not even talking about why he's here and how I pay my bills. That's servicing my client to the best of my ability. This is theater. And a lot of times on the floor of our theater, the salon, we forget that we are the actors. We are here to play the part, and you guys have seen me do it at your schools. And I love when I do this. And those of you bear with me because I feel like I'm just talking to Sean and Tina. But I'll ask the whole class.
Your questions, guys.
I know, right? It's like we're about to have coffee and watch your neighbor's dog come in your yard and get So what happens is you start forgetting who you're dealing with, and you take them for granted. And now this is the number one reason why a customer leaves a salon is because you haven't suggested anything new. That is the number one reason.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that. And let's not get it twisted. Retail is a necessary evil. Our retail, our take home, our support products. And as a stylist, if you're not hearing me, then you choose not to hear me because you don't want to buy into what I'm saying, which is fine. The wall goes up and your fertile garden now became a narrow space with weeds in it, because retail is what protects the look you just created. That business card, Sean has a cool look. Sean's hair is rocking. And if I don't send him out to do that and maintain it, that's my business card. That head of hair is going to go brr. And we all know this. You see a customer out at a restaurant and they look like they fell off a truck backwards. You're like, I didn't cut that hair. And the first thing they do when they see you in the restaurant is they go, look, there's Gary, my hairdresser. And they look horrible. Everyone in the restaurant goes, I ain't going there, right?
Yeah.
That's because we didn't educate. So this message is like when we talk in the salon or at the school and we said, hey, guys, Robert Rodriguez is making a new movie about the greatest hairdresser. What are the skills that person should have? Remember, Sean? Lisa will know. They raise their hand, got to be on time, got to be polite, got to be knowledgeable, got to be fashionable. They run a list of 30 things the best stylist has. And at the end of all that, what do we say? All right, no more excuses. You all just told me what the best stylist looks like. There's no excuse for you to go back. And what happens? They go right back to where it's like, because asking someone for money is very uncomfortable. But what we forget as stylists, they're already coming in ready to spend. They're not coming in going, put this 20 here and I'll hide this one in my sock. They're coming in and they're hungry for the knowledge you're going to share with them, whether it's fashion, styling, or just what the latest products can do to make your life easier. You're not selling them product, you're selling them ease. You're selling them an experience. You're selling them how they feel. I mean, I don't know about you, but when you get that great new shampoo in the shower, and you're like, ooh, look at all the bubbles. I bring it right up and I start singing Donkashane like, you know, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I'm singing in the shower, man. I'm loving this. And that's the excitement you have to bring back. So as a stylist, I know we see the same people 6 to 8 to 12 weeks. They deserve that. Just because you said something 3 times that day doesn't mean the 4th time isn't as important to that client. Just because you take people and you walk them and you follow that system, like we're in a roundabout way, look, we're back on systems. That system's there so it ensures every single person has the same great experience. Now, if you're on a salon team, and we just talked about the 10 phases of teamwork about 4 weeks ago, everyone helps each other's paycheck. So if I'm in there and I'm killing it and I'm on stage, man, I'm talking to everyone, nice shoes, Mary Cat, I love you here today. Come on, sit with me. And everyone's like, we want to sit with Gary. But then you always have that one who gets disease of me. We talked about that. The one who thinks they're better than everyone. I'm too cool to be a good stylist. I'm going to be the quiet savant stylist. You're going to have to guess what I'm doing. I'm cool, right? That's not our system, man. And that's when the hard reality of being a salon owner or an entrepreneur comes into play, where you have to nut up and you have to be strong enough to stand and believe by your systems and rectify the bad problem. And that's where the biggest challenge in any business comes, when you don't stand up for what you believe in and you allow an employee to dictate how business gets done while you're paying the bills. It's that simple.
This is powerful, Gary. I want to stay on this a little bit more because
I'm all yours, girl.
So we're coaching a salon owner right now, and this was the message that she had sent me. She said, hey, Tina, I need, can you give me a book to read with my team as far as communicating better with their guests? And so I'm thinking Gary needs to write a book right now, because I don't think it exists right now for the hairstylist of how to communicate.
Let's do it together. We'll call it Be Gary.
Be Gary. I love it. Be a communicator, because that's the whole deal, is really how can I think most of the salon owners that I know are really great with their guests, and that's why they decided to open a salon. But they don't really know how to translate that. And I'm thinking even, with our schools and our salons, we could even be better with this. And so coach me of how to make that happen, how to turn it into a system. Because I think one of the things that we get kind of caught up in, we think, oh, well, the systems are already written, we can't rewrite them. Yes, you can. You can always rewrite systems. You can edit them, rewrite them. And so, like, let's dialogue. Let's practice this dialogue. What does it look like? But this is the first I've ever heard this question, which was Hugh's. How do you want to feel? I mean, even just that question, Gary, all of a sudden you just touched my heart as a client. And so where do we get the Gary-isms, right, if you will, to be able to make this happen in our salons? Because this is, I'm watching all these platforms, Gary, with salon owners. They're really frustrated with their staff members, and it's all a breakdown of the consultation. We know this.
That's all it is.
And so how do we fix this? How do we fix our communication?
Well, it starts from the interview process. Let's go back to how you chose that person. We sit across from each other, and everyone who's listening right now, we all know we interview well. And like I tell the future professionals, when you go out to a salon, interview the salon, don't let them interview you as much. Because if there's not congruence between the owner and new stylist, then it's never going to work anyway. So you go through your system. So if Sean, I'm interviewing with Sean, or with you, Tina, you're going to say, all right, we love you. We've seen your resume. We like your community service. You do beautiful work. Here's what it takes to be a part of our team. Simple as that. And then you run down your systems. And you have, just like we just did for the client, you have a commitment and agreement. And let's just say, all right, we'll just say pre-booking has to be once you get up after your 90-day period of the courtship, to make sure that we're all not fibbing here and you are a nice person. And because I always like to use a humor when I interview people. I'm like, you got 90 days to have me fall in love with you all over again, or we're getting a divorce. And they go, no, I'm serious. I'm not keeping you after 90 days if you're more headache than happy. You know what I mean? And I'm very direct and honest that way. And that's a John Paul thing. But I'll get back to that later. So you sit down and you run the whole system. What can I expect? All right, so if I get to, let's say, 86% pre-booking, you're going to raise your price, or whatever that is. I'm just making things up that I used to do. So if they still apply, they do. If you hit over 20% retail, I'm going to give you 15 or 20% commission. So they see the steps, And just on those two things alone now, and then you're pre-booking at 80, and then retention rate. I think an 80% retention rate is still too low, but it's a goal. So you got an 80% retention rate. So I agree to everything Sean and I just agreed on. I come back in 6 months and say, I need a raise, Sean, right? How many times does this happen? I need a raise, Sean. And then you're behind the chair like, well, we kind of like this person. They are growing with the team. The team likes them. And if you're a good entrepreneur, you know if they've already latched on and become a leader in your team. Because certain times a new person comes in and they've got a good energy, they talk a good story. Hey, he knows J-Lo, I got to get to know him, that kind of nonsense. So now you get someone that you can see a future with. 6 months in, I'm asking for a raise. So Sean's in that spot where he goes, what do I do? You bring out this. This is what we agreed to. All right, you said 86%, and then you take the emotion out. You let your system manage the employee, not you manage the employee. Because back to the first thing I said, there's no lying in the numbers. If I give you 100, well, let's say I gave you 10 clients in 3 months and you kept 2, that's not, you know, this is not Tina Black salon level. We're an 80% retention. You're at 20%. Now it opens up a learning and a coaching opportunity where you can actually see the soul of the person that's sitting across from you. If they go, well, that's not my fault, the arms crossed. Well, whose fault is it? Well, it's your fault. I said, but I gave you 10 people. Yeah, but they were all cranky, except for 2. Well, those people were cool. I know them from the club. See where it goes? Now the information starts to flow. And you can't ever retain an employee who can't admit to honesty. That's all this is. And people are too afraid to be honest because they're afraid that someone's going to go out and put something on Instagram. Gary's a big jerk. He said I was going to, and then it's out there. But you have to, and this goes back to trust in who you are to your community, because that happens to any entrepreneur. And I know if something bad gets said about me, someone might call and go, hey, I heard that you kick puppies or whatever they said. But we know you're an animal lover. So your reputation is all you have in this world. So yours is stellar. Sean's is stellar. I'm pointing like you see me pointing at you, Tina. Tina Black's reputation is 2 thumbs up, and so is Sean's. So whenever it's something hiccups, you have to rely on the hard work you put in to make that brand. Tina Black Salons or the Paul Mitchell Schools. What is the name of this? Your salons are Paul Mitchell the School, right?
So yeah,
Paul Mitchell the Salon.
Paul Mitchell the Salon. Yeah.
Yeah. So Paul Mitchell the Salon has a great reputation. What is that? And then go back, like if you're doing these interviews, if you own a salon, what is the reputation of your salon? Like that person who said, what book can I read? Any one of the books, like the one we went over, 10 Phases of Team, which will teach people how to do this. But it has to be read by the owner. A lot of times when I'm talking with salon owners or business owners, they assign a task and they don't partake themselves. So this has to be up here first, like you guys do everything first. You read it and make sure that it applies to you guys. And then you go forth with the team. So that being said, the system is most important. When you interview, you go over what's expected. Because, you know, John Paul said it from stage, you inspect what you expect. And the only time we've had hiccups in our business is when I stopped inspecting what I expected. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, when you stop looking, it's just like having a 13-year-old son. We made that deal when he was 5, make your bed every day. And he did every day. And then when he got to be about 7 or 8, I started checking on it. And I noticed the bed wasn't being made. So all of a sudden I have to, sorry, I thought I shut that off. There we go. Don't worry, it's only John Paul. I'll get him later. He's like, did my new motorcycle come in? Yes, your new motorcycle came in. But if it was him, I'd hold him up and say, hey, say hi to Tina. So this is where you're at now, Sean. And you have to, this is the best thing, is because when your system manages your people, it's totally off you. There's no emotion. People think that, and for anyone who's listening, whether you're a stylist or an owner, your staff is not your friends. Get that out of your head, because everybody on your staff right now is looking for a better paycheck somewhere else. And I've had a lot of my best friends come and go through our company, but they're not your friends. They're looking for another job always. And they're easily swayed. And if they're true teammates, they'll come to you and say, hey, Gary, like when people would leave our salon, like, hey, I get this great opportunity. I'm going to move to Michigan and I'm going to work in the Tina Black schools. All right, then you came to me, you let me know. It's those ones in the middle of the night that sneak away, but they want to stir up the poop over here so everyone leaves. You ever notice when there's a walkout, there's only one unhappy person. And that one unhappy person made everyone else unhappy and convinced them that we're the devil and we should all leave. Why? Because it justifies their position. So what we're looking for when we put this out, and look at how you want to describe your company during your interview. What is this company about? We're about strength, unity, and purpose. That means that at any given moment, I want to look you in the eye, and I don't want to have a contract, but what you tell me is true. And the day I can't trust you is the day I have to ask you to leave. I haven't got time to worry about my best people lying to me. And that's the culture you guys have built. And a lot of times when you have that culture, people who don't live it want it. They want to be that way. They really, in their heart of hearts, want to be that good person. And as soon as they get to a certain level of power or confidence, they get a little back to their old person. And then when they don't get what they want, they drop again. Next thing you know, they're over here making everyone else hate the company. So some people just aren't destined for this great life. Simple as that. And that's why I love the managing systems. And then you got to have it weekly, quarterly, however you do your numbers, but you got to check up on what they're doing. You got to see the numbers. I mean, if you're not doing your 80% retention, if you're not pre-booking, if you're not 20% retail, if you're not suggesting something new. One of the greatest salons I ever came across was the Di Pasquale Day Spa. And I think it was right out either Manhattan or Brooklyn. And he was also a very good Sebastian distributor. In his salon, he had a piece of paper about that tall. It said the customer's right to know is the stylist's right to grow. What that means is if I don't suggest something new to you and go through these 10 tips of consultation, your haircut's free. You start having your clients manage free haircuts, everyone's going to follow your system. Can you imagine? Think about it right now. How many of your people are not given a great consultation? How many are not suggesting retail? How many are not coming 15 minutes ahead of the time they're on the floor? Because if you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. If you walk through my salon door at 10 o'clock and you have a 10 o'clock appointment, you're late. Look at it, I get all amped up still. I still remember that one person who always came in doing this to her hair. Oh, sorry, I'm late, it's traffic. Get up early, you know.
It's always traffic.
Always traffic. I love when I'm in your schools and they come in late. I beat you from Austin, Texas. Where's your excuse?
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, we go through that check-in line at the airport. That's traffic.
That's traffic. Anyway. Actually, the airport is awesome now. It's great to fly. I feel like people are flying on my plane now because no one's on it.
It's like, who wants to come on my Southwest jet? So it goes back to the discipline we talked about earlier. You want to make sure that they understand that discipline's here and the system's here for their success. We do this as a favor to you because not everyone's as disciplined as I am. So I know if I give you a system to stay in your lane with, that if you follow these systems, just like when we talk about the 4 agreements, I promise you, you practice the 4 agreements, your life gets better. It does. It does. And whether you choose to follow our system or not is going to dictate how much happiness you have at our business. But here's what I'm going to tell you. If you don't follow our system, you're not going to be part of our business. That's it. It's as simple as it is. It's not like you can go to Harvard and say, I don't want that economics book. I want the other one. No, you're going to get the book that comes with the Harvard education. You're going to have to go to this many classes to get your degree. Yep. No, I get that. I took that. I'm not going to that class. Well, you're not getting a degree. That's that simple. And I think once we get into this relationship where people don't want to be the heavy, they're not up to speed on having their system manage their people, they cave. They go, all right, you don't have to go to that training. And I won't even use the name, but we had one of the top stylists that ever worked for us, went and became a, I don't want to say it because it might give away, but anyway, they went to a place of prominence for another brand, and it was a big salon, and they said, well, you don't have to take our training. And I got the phone call about a year later. He goes, Gary, you were right. I didn't let them take the training, and they were the worst employee I ever had. I said, because they didn't know your system. Everyone can be a great hairstylist, but you think Tom Brady's down there teaching them the Patriots way? No, he's learning the Tampa Bay way.
Right.
And that's the GOAT.
I love
right?
that.
So let's go back to the beginning, Sean. Spare me your brilliance. We have a system, right?
Yeah.
This is how easy we made it for you to be successful. We mapped it out.
That's so good. Go back to, I want you to hit on what you said, JP. You said that's another story because you slipped that one on. I loved it.
Because JP is the most giving, nicest guy on the planet. So everyone comes at him, and I'll say this because I love this man, and I said this to a distributor meeting I had, I'm sick of apologizing for being the #1 brand in the industry. If one more salon says, you're everywhere, Yeah, that's what a brand is. Everywhere, right?
You're
Is
everywhere.
it our fault that John Paul and his incredible team made a product that is in such demand that you can't keep up? Oh, it's everywhere. Well, if you had more than 4 products, you can get more money of that everywhere, right? So when John Paul is talking, he's always nice and they come right at him and he has to be direct. And if they hear what they don't want to, like, hey, I want to get 40 gallons of detangler for a nickel, he's going to say, well, no. Then, well, you got billions, right? It's like, no. So when you get to the point where you and Sean are, it's just like John Paul, if you're not direct, something lingers like, maybe I can get that. That's the problem of not being direct and honest, because there's a hope of linger right here that I just think I got over on Team Black, and I think I'm getting 75% my commission rate. No. I did not say that. But that's why you have to be direct in today's world, because any squibble from what you truly mean leaves to open to interpretation. And let's be real, these are energy zappers. These kind of conversations zap your energy because now you cause yourself self-doubt. No matter how good of a leader you are, if you have a little upheaval and someone doesn't like what we're doing, you take it personal. Everyone's like, you can't take it personal. Well, yeah, you just told me our company sucks and we're a bunch of mean people. I took that kind of personal. And then you have to go back, do the math and say, no, we're a great company. We gave you every single chance along the way to grow. Because if Gary's doing a $150,000 a year paycheck and he started the same day as you, and he's followed every one of our systems, and let's say Sean, same day, better hairdresser, more skills, only doing 60 grand a year, what's that tell you? Well, Sean doesn't follow the system. And that's all it is. Then you prove it to the staff. And like, I used to love doing the Monopoly game when we had our salon. I'd say, all right, who wants to be Gary? Here's all the money. And then I'd give him a pile of Monopoly money. And then I'd say, who wants to be the vendor? Who wants to be payroll tax? And I'd go around the room and assign all my bills. And then I'd go, all right, give me that. And I'd give them up. And I'm passing money out. And the person trying to be me is going, pile's getting smaller. It gets smaller every month. And it keeps coming, every 12 of them. And then it gets down to that big bill. Was it the $500 bill they had that was purple? I'd rip it in half and go, that's what you got for the month. There. I don't want to be an owner. No, you don't. Because at 4 a.m. I was up here when the squirrel set off the alarm. Where were you? Right?
Yeah, we do a lot of alarms, don't we, Sean?
Oh,
Alarm calls.
And you do them so much, the policemen are like, are you doing this on purpose? Do you want to get out of the house? What is this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, now they're charging us every time they come. Trust me.
This is the kind of stuff that gets you your energy leaks. Plug up your energy leaks, because as a leader, if you're always dealing with this, you're going to get an energy leak. It's just like a tube in a tire. You got to patch that, because eventually you're down to flat, and then the team loses respect. Because never forget, no matter what, we're talking about.
Did Gary?
He just froze for a second.
Is that me or is that Gary? Hopefully he pops back on here.
Hopefully he pops back on, especially because anytime you start a sentence with "never forget," everybody leans in.
What I love, what he was talking about, Sean, is playing the Monopoly game. I mean, how brilliant is that? So we still have some more people on the call today. So any questions that you guys want to throw out there, any comments, best ideas that you just heard from Gary, because how cool is that? Because I think most salon teams really don't have an understanding, and a lot of them will say, oh my gosh, you're taking 50% of what I make. I don't think so. I hope that it might be like between 5 and 7%, and so playing a Monopoly game. So there you go, Sean, you can do that next time we have a salon meeting.
I think that's great. And, those of you that have joined us on Next Level know that we talk about systems all the time. That's why we start with foundation, and to hear Gary just talk about how important that is to let your system manage the employee. It's off of us at that point, that there's no emotion. And I think it's really important to know that, like he said, staff is not your friend. Unfortunately, even though we'd love to think that, that we're all friends, but at the end of the day, like it's interesting that he said everybody's looking for that next step. What is that next step for them? And that's, but if we have that systems, it takes us out of it. It takes that emotion. Like, here's the consequences for X. This is what happened. You get rewarded. If you do Y, you get this. Like, I think it's so important, especially now more than ever as we're going back into business, I guess you could say, in the new way. What does that look like? Maybe it's time to kind of look at those systems. I absolutely love what Gary said about how does that make you feel? What an easy way to kind of switch that. Like that, I think that's awesome. There's just so many little things that, we get into the day-to-day, and it's almost like we become very, Gary's calling. Let's see. Hello. Yeah, you got cut off. Do you need me to send you the link again?
It's like, send me the link. Glad to have everybody on the call today. What was your best thing that Gary said? Go ahead and put that in the chat box while Sean is talking with Gary. And I loved his 5 steps to a healthy business, to planning, debt burden, shared learning, shared vision, leadership skills that he talked about. Of course, I would love to dive super deep in that too, Sean, with him. And yeah, the 90-day, I love that. I agree. And that's where I was going to go with my next question with him, Sean. You've got 90 days for me to fall in love with you. And I think that's like one of my weakest areas, is not really setting, standards in those 90 days, right? And a really, really great system. And in fact, we just assigned someone on our salon team to be the overseer of that. And so of course I'm going to sit in with her until she feels confident with it. But she wants to oversee the 90-day training and to make sure people feel really, really confident in their position in our salons as well too. So I'm excited about that. And then when your brain is in a positive space, that means your heart is working. I love that. It's so true. Yes. Out of the heart, the mouth flows, right? And then Lisa said, I love the 90 days. Yeah. Being direct. Yeah, how hard is that, right? And I think most people that are in the salon business are just people. They love people so much. And I think sometimes we treat our business like it's our home, and it's so easy to fall into that as well too, and become a people pleaser instead of a people challenger, which can be really, really hard. And I'll tell you, challenging people is much harder than giving them everything that they want. And I would say every salon owner that Sean and I coach, that's probably the biggest thing that we spend time with them on, is to be able to really help them to be authentic, transparent leaders and loving leaders, but at the same time running a business with the systems that you have set up in your company. And then Lynn said, or Deborah, hi Deborah, so good to see you on the call today. People stop doing what makes them grow. Yeah, absolutely. And I think as leaders, it's so important for us to set up a really standard system for that. That's why I love doing these masterminds, to be able to give that opportunity to the team members, and also training the salon owners how to run a mastermind, just like we're doing here, so that you can utilize a book or something, tools. I love using leadership tools to be able to grow with together as well too. And then a new salon starting to hire staff independent. I'm building my system. I love it, Lynn. Yes, I know many, many people that have signed up for this course are new salons, and just really building these systems as well. And I think one of the biggest things too is to sit down and say to your whole team, let's draw out what our ideal guest looks like, and just dream really big with that. So it looks like we got Gary back on to be able to help finish out the call here.
We are back.
Woohoo! He just needs to
There you go.
Talk about thunderbolts, right? Practice what you preach. This is what we get. Well, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be back here.
We're glad to have you back. Everybody was sharing what they loved about your conversation as well, Gary. And so you can bring it home in the next 10 minutes. But I think one of the biggest things that I heard was they love how you talk about, you have 90 days for me to fall in love with you. And many typed into that, just being really direct and honest. And, how hard is that, as a salon owner? And so coach the salon owner leader right now of how to be a better direct leader, obviously loving. I know John Paul is the most loving person I've ever met in my life. You are too, Win Claybaugh, all my leaders. So talk about that, you know, how can they learn to be that type of leader? Because you talked about that as your fifth step to running a great business.
Perfect. I think, and thank you for that. And everyone who's listening, you have to study yourself above all. You have to know what makes you happy. What would make you fall in love with somebody? Would it be sleight of hand? Would it be trickery? Or would it be direct honesty? And when someone truly loves you, and I mean this, they're honest with you. End of story. There is no room in our world for someone who dances in the gray area, because all they're going to do is keep going back and forth to where they get the best option. It's sort of like, and I don't want to equivocate anyone to this, but it is a funny story. It's like the homeless kitty cat I had when I lived in Newport. I had this great cat that sat on my porch all the time until I stopped putting food out there. Then he went down the street and got another place. And that's what happens when you're not honest, and if you don't have expectations of your staff, because there's no such thing as objective reality. The reality is the reality. People try and spin reality into fit into their box so they can get what they want, but that's not it. Reality is what's in front of you and how you handle it. So you want to try and live out of your imagination, not your memory. You know, that's something that was always something big for me. Never lose that spark, because remember, as a salon owner, you're going to be sitting across from someone that you're going to trust with your greatest asset and your greatest accomplishment, and that's your customers. Because everyone on this call, if you're a salon owner, they'll agree with me. And if you're brand new to a salon, you have to agree with me. Nobody walks into a salon with a pile of customers and says, hey, Gary, Sean, and Tina, I've got 400 customers. I need a place to cut them. No, they walk in and say, I love your salon. I want to be a part of it. Help grow me. And that's what happens when you're a new person on a team. So as an owner who's going to have to give them this guidance, that's what a system is going to do. You want to coach them the way you'd want to be coached. Does anyone on this call like to be fibbed to or handled? Nobody likes to be handled. Everyone, I can guarantee, on this call would like direct honesty with a clean, concise set of goals and what the purpose of the team is. So when you start living out of your imagination instead of your memory, you're no longer in the past. So if you're sitting there as a salon owner and you're looking at, let's say I'm interviewing at your salon, don't fall back to, I remember back when we used to be so busy and we had guys like Gary working here all the time. No. Where's your imagination take you? Your imagination takes you, what's possible if this new employee comes on, they fall in love with our system, they emulate our system, they become one of the top producers in the salon. You know what happens? Your business grows, because your existing staff will get motivated by the energy of the new staff. So your existing staff protects your existing business. Your new staff grows your new business, because that's who you're going to be feeding your new business to. And that's why I love about that, because when you study yourself above all, you don't fall into that trap. You actually know what you're made of, and you can't. Does everyone see me? Am I there?
Yes,
oh, there you are.
Hey.
I'm on a conference call.
Oh, there we go. Gotcha.
Oh, there you go. Done. How'd I do?
You were awesome. Oh, we can't hear him now. Oops. Now the audio is probably off.
Oh, it's coming. It says it's connected.
Yay.
Oh, now you're okay. We should be good.
All right, cool. All right. So we left on living out from your imagination, not your memory, because that's where you're in the past. And I don't know. As an owner, I just like talking to people the way I want to be talked to. Don't get tricky. You know, there's enough podcasts out there. You can watch someone manipulate truth or get people, you know, how to win friends and influence people. You're not trying to influence anybody at this point in your career. What you're trying to do is get people to join your company. And I don't mean anything more than join our cause, join our culture, be part of this great thing that Tina and her family have worked so hard to put out there, where everyone's welcome. I think, Sean, you're one of the best success stories I've ever seen in this industry. You know, I love your story. And anyone who's listening right now, just ask Tina how she and Sean and Lisa cultivated this management team. You know, Sean got an opportunity, not because of his skill level, because his heart and his willingness and dedication to believe in the system. He embraced the system. He emulated the system. Now he is an integral part of the success of the system. And I know anybody who's ever been on a team, you want to be on a winning team. Being on a winning team feels good. I saw a stat the other day. Dennis Rodman, one of the craziest personalities in the NBA, he had 36 games of 20 or more rebounds. His role in his lane was rebounding. He had 0 games of 20 or more points, right? This is what he did best. He fit into that system. He flourished in that system. And to this day, he gets emotional and cries about when he was there in that system. Isn't that someplace you want to work?
Yeah.
That's where I'd want to work. Now, flip side, if you're coming in, don't you want someone to talk to you like we're talking right now? It's just so hard. It's just because people want what they want, and they don't. Some people just don't like truth, and it's hard sometimes. But as a good leader, you're obligated to be honest with your staff, their strengths, their weaknesses, direction, their vision. You don't ever want to get wrapped up in their personal, so you keep it in the box of when you're in this building, you're my responsibility. I'm responsible for your happiness, your success, and the way you relate to the other moving parts of this business. And this is how we do it. This system from the salon, a Paul Mitchell salon, is how we do it. This piece of paper tells me how I'm going to manage anyone who comes in as a student or as a learning leader at our schools. There was, I forgot who said it, but what was it? It was, there's nothing noble about being superior to another human being. The only nobility is in being superior to your previous self. Pretty good, right? I'm not here to be better than you. I'm here to be better than I was yesterday. And if you fall into line with our system, you will be better than you were yesterday. I owe it to the rest of this team not to let this person wreck the harmony and the success we've created through a great attitude and that shared learning. Because there's one thing I know, and you guys all know I love Tina and her family, and I love Sean and Lisa, but I watch them. Every time I go places, I watch how they emulate what they talk about. I know way too many people who can stand on a stage and tell you some fire and brimstone kind of good message. You go to their business and they do nothing of what they said on stage. That's hypocrisy at its finest. And when you're a big personality doing that, your staff will leave you because they're like, hey, we work here. We don't see that. Where if you're part of this team, you see how they emulate. Do they have shared learning? Yes, they do. Do they share their vision? Yes, they do. Do they ever talk about being broke? No. That's one thing an owner should never, ever, ever say. I don't understand why they do it. Oh, tax season again, geez. Yeah, it comes every year, right? That does not instill confidence in the new stylist going, are you going to bounce my check? No, no. You just got a new car. I like your truck. But, that's the whole thing that I take away from, like, when we talked about John Paul. His discipline is what makes him so incredible. His heart, don't get me wrong. Everyone can talk 6 ways to Sunday about his generosity and his heart. That's great. I love it. But his discipline and how he looks at business and how he proceeds with business and how he picks and chooses his teams. I love his model of less is more. I'll never have a big staff company ever again, because if you pay the right people the right money and you reward them, not just financially, but emotionally, and you ask them how you feel today, you'll never have to change your staff. And that's what you guys have proven day in and day out. Don't get me wrong. Some positions are always going to rotate. That's just the way life. It's like the tide. It goes in, it goes out. But that's what you always have. And today, I think, is mental mastery, if you want to call it anything. It's you have to master your own mental capabilities. You can't be a coward and be a leader. That's just not how it works. You look at the movie, what was it called? Russell Crowe was in it, Gladiator. If you are a coward, you die at the end. That's just how that works. As a leader, you can't afford the luxury of being scared. You can be scared at home with the people you love and trust the most, but in front of your troops, man, and JP laughs about this, and I said, I got my sword out today, JP. He's like, well, I said, I'm going to battle, man. I got my sword, and I'm on the side of right, and, and you guys know that's who I am. That's just who I am. It's not going to change, because I do me, and that's how I live, and that's how I want to be treated, and I know how you guys live. And, if you're looking for a pill to take, there is none. And then you are the secret ingredient to the success of your business. And what you put up here is what comes out here. And so if you're always living in the past and you're living in the negative and you're like, back in the day in 1998, we were a $4 million salon. Duh. It's 2020. You know, I've been in the industry for 40 years. Were they 40 good years? I'm just saying. This is the questions you have to ask. You know, I can get away with it because I'm a little more whimsical, but I talk that way. And some people can handle it, some people can't. But direct honesty never leaves you scratching your head what you just said. And after this phone call today, I know everything I said was true. I know that I was dealing out of a place of love with people I love and trust. And this is how an interview should be. We just did a role play of a great interview, is what we did. I would work for you tomorrow. I'd come right now, especially if Sean's passing out condos. I'm in.
You're hired.
And I really think if I can leave you with this, we need to collaborate on that book. I'll sit and work with you on a Be Something book with you.
Yeah, be efficient.
Yeah.
We decided, be efficient.
Yeah. I'll write one for Brian. Be gone. I'm coming to town. I'll have the chicken salad. Your boyfriend.
So how do people find you, Gary? How do they find you so that they can continue to follow you?
I'm just at PLH Charity because it's all about the charity. Again, and I do practice what I preach. I do not look at social media. I've stopped watching TV for almost a year. Because just think about what we said, 60,000 thoughts, 95% is still the garbage from yesterday. And you put on the TV, it's still the garbage from 20 years ago. The news stations are still selling you hate. The people are still bitching about why they're not ahead. You shut it down and you go back to your world. And I'm around good people like you who make me happy. Look at it. I'm going to be an old man. I am an old man. And I'm still like, duh.
We appreciate you so much, Gary. Any last words from you as we close this webinar out? We cannot thank you enough for being on here with us today. And thank you everyone for joining us and all of your great wisdom and takeaways from Gary as well too.
Thanks for being patient with me when my lights went out. Maybe I should pay the bill.
And he's not broke. He's not broke.
No, I don't know. My wife gets my paycheck. I haven't seen one in 40 years. Yeah.
There we go. Good job, Laurie.
I love you guys. Thanks for a great day.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, everybody.
Gary.